Then talk about the students, how you saw the students evolve and change over the years you were there. Maybe a sort of a comparison from when you first got to Barry, and then, as you said, then there was Pedro Pan, there, and the influx of the Mario boat lift, and all the other things that affected Barry.
And then we went co-ed in '75.
Yes, and you desegregated school. The school desegregated. How would you capsulize that or explain it to someone who wasn't there but wanted an idea of what the times were like as you evolved decade to decade?
Well, I can still remember teaching a 4 o'clock afternoon class, the teaching of biology in high school. And this is when the men got their toe into the exclusive girls' college. Well, we need this credit to become accredited, and so on. So I was teaching this 4 o'clock class, and I marveled at how we all kept our cool and we kept concentrating on the subject matter, because that was the time that the Russian submarine and the naval ships were encountering each other down off the coast of Cuba. And I was also on dining room duty, and I remember going around, and the girls were not eating. And the chapel was overflowing with students. There were some parents that were sending for their daughters because they were afraid that we were going to be in the fray. We didn't know, but there was many prayers said, and we were so grateful when nothing came from that. Khrushchev and Kennedy settled that. But the tension, you could cut it. It was so, ooh. And then the Augustinian fathers were expelled from Cuba, and they came over to Miami and set up Biscayne College. And Biscayne College has now become St. Thomas University. And some of their boys came over to Barry to take their science courses. And this was a budding romance. I had several nieces. Jean was one, and
Sister Jean?
Jean Stechschulte.
Oh.
They came from Colorado, and she came. She took a double major, chemistry and biology. Well, she met Jim Mullins from there, and they studied together, and they were study buddies. And later on, she went into med tech, and he tried out at University of Miami to get into med school, and he wasn't accepted the first year, so he went into med tech. But meanwhile, he and Jean were simpatico, and he applied again, and he was accepted, and they didn't know why they didn't take him the first time. And so they had they were married. There was a double wedding because Mary Jane graduated from nursing, and she married Tom Bender from the Air Force Academy, and there was a double wedding. And Jean and Jim, Jean went, I said to her after she was married, I said, why don't you apply to med school? I said, you always thought about it. I said, why don't you do it? She did. She was accepted right away. So both of them became doctors. He's a nephrologist now in West Palm Beach, and she's a radiologist. And Mary Jane has pursued nursing, which she loves. And little Joni came along, and she graduated from Barry, a double major. And she's now a top-notch radiologist at at Mercy Hospital in Missouri. Come on, brain, you know that. This is terrible.
No, this is impressive.
Springfield, Missouri. And she has now been chosen as one of the 2 radiologists to read all the films for the Cardinals for their injuries. And she is a top-notch radiologist. She has four children.
You mentioned something about one of the nuns that I've interviewed, so many now I can't remember who it was, said, people thought of Barry as a finishing school, but it wasn't. Or
no.
was it?
No, it was not a finishing school. They might have felt finished when they got through with this, but
It was a serious academic program.
Oh, definitely. No, but when I think...
What presidents were there?
Well, I
when
had
you-
Sister Mary Alice Collins. I had Sister Dorothy Brown. Then we had Sister Trinita Flood, and then Sister Jean O'Loughlin. And Sister Jean O'Loughlin came in, she was like a breath of fresh air, I still...
How's that? How,
and she's so humble, too. I still remember her down in that house there on 113th Street. We were down there for a little get-together, and she sat down at a table. I was sitting next to her, and she said, I'm supposed to do some fundraising, and she said, I don't know anything about it. She says, I don't know where to start. But thank goodness for Mr. and Mrs. Andreas. They helped her tremendously. You know all the stories about her and
her fundraising?
yeah,
Well,
how she got started.
Well, I know this. I know she was a formidable fundraiser, and I know that if someone pointed out, you might want to go talk to that person, they wouldn't finish the sentence before Jean was over there talking to them.
Well, Mrs. Andreas, if you've heard this story, tell me, I'll cut it. Invited them on a boat party, a yacht. And, well, there were a couple of millionaires on. You've heard this?
No.
And one of them told her that if she could sing "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina," that he would give, I think it was 500,000. Well, another one chimed in and he said he would too. And so then what she did, when she came back to Barry after the thing, and she went to the costume room that we have, she got a formal, and she practiced singing that, Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. And so she accepted the bid and she went back later, at another, and so she got $1 million on that thing.
Is that a true story?
It's true. I know. Sister Marie Carroll was with my roommate next to me at the villa, because she was in charge of the drama and all of the wardrobes. All the nuns know that. And then another one invited her for if she would dance, and so she did. She did it at one of our year-end balls, that we had.
The gala, the fundraising.
Oh, she could really, really dance beautifully. And he was a good dancer. And so she got money for that. And then the Andreases were very interested. And that's the Andreas School of Business is named after them.
And that's the family from Minnesota, right?
From Illinois. You remember the granary, Daniel.
Oh, I know exactly.
The granaries.
Daniel Midland.
You got it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, yes.
In Illinois, and they provide the wheat and so on for practically the whole world. And Andreas was one of the CEOs of that. Andrea Daniel Midland or something like that.
Several nuns have suggested to me that Sister Jean made really significant changes in her tenure there, that she took Barry to another level.
Yeah, she has worn so many hats, and she's done so much. I mean, it's just a marvel. And so the Andreases have been very generous. But see, Mrs. Andreas came to Barry as a part-time student. She'd come down in the winter and stay at the hotel, the one down near the, oh, come on, Key something. You remember?
Oh,
Biscayne Boulevard down.
Key Biscayne.
no, you're talking about Key, it's not Key Point. I know exactly what you're, but anyway, she stayed downtown.
In the winter,
Yeah.
But just for personal enrichment, she came to Barry, for a course here and a course there. Well, she was in Sister Mariciana Shamara's class, and Sister mentioned that they were, that the speaker for the graduation was not able to make it. And she came to Sister after class and she says, I think that I can maybe help you out. She said, Hubert Humphrey is visiting us. And she said, I'm sure that he would be willing to oblige. So we had Hubert Humphrey as our speaker. Graduation.
University of Miami must have been, just furious. Do you see the little sun she's
so
getting on
that's
her
how-
face? Okay.
It's moving.
That's
Yeah.
how Mrs. Andreas got introduced to
Can you
Barry.
get her to come forward a little?
Can you come forward just a little bit and we'll get that sun out of
You
your
can move
eyes?
your cart.
If you want to move the
sure.
cart up a little bit,
That's good,
or
Oh my, I'm talking too long.
no, you're
Well,
not. No,
the
you're
sun's
fascinating.
just moving.
The sun's
as we're-
moving.
as we're talking.
Yeah.
Just bring it a little bit more.
Wait a
The
minute.
shades move.
I gotta put the,
The whole thing
You
around
need
again.
to
key
do it
in.
fine. I'll reframe it. You can keep rolling. Just stay where you are.
Okay. Oh, good.
let's do
Oh,
one.
that should do us for the interview. You shouldn't have to move it again. But you will want to turn. I'll move my leg.
am I sitting on your knee?
No, not yet. We may get cozier and cozier, though. Do you have any Sister Linda stories? Did you know her at all? Or
Yeah, she was a sophomore when I came there. Yeah. And she graduated from there. I remember going to her parents' home. Remember her father. I remember Father Bevilacqua, who became the cardinal later. We loved her father, especially. He was one of our first star teachers in our School of Podiatric Medicine when we started out. He had been a doctor in the war, in the field,
Honey, come this way.
and he had so many stories to tell. And he was, what was the course he was teaching? It was a very intense course, but he made it so interesting for those students. And he worked so hard at it that his wife said that he took the whole dining room table and had it littered with his medical books because he wanted to include everything in it. Well, I remember I was on their faculty. At that time, I was a dual faculty member, not a DUEL, but a DUAL. And we had to go to Princeton to write questions for the national boards in podiatric medicine. And he was one of our faculty that went. He had them so enamored with stories of what happened on the battlefields and how they, met the medical emergencies and did the lab work and so on. Well, he should have written a book, but he just enthralled them. And that was such a wonderful, wonderful experience to be there. So,
What do you miss about Barry?
I love the intellectual excitement and also the wonderful camaraderie with faculty and students, and with students that were lab assistants too. They were so good.
Do you think?
Yeah. See, I taught histology too, and parasitology. I taught parasitology, embryology, histology, microbiology. in physiology. But when I was taking my courses at Catholic U, and I deliberately took courses that I knew that I probably would teach later on. So it made it wonderful.
Did you like South Florida?
Yes. The only thing that I find that is just a little thrown in the side is the humidity. But then, if that's all you have to gripe about, oh heaven.
You know, and also you were there during, as you said, exciting, not always, but the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Mario boat lift, you saw the Haitian boat people coming over. You were there. I mean, Miami, one sister said to me, which I thought was interesting, that Barry was never really in South Florida as in southern thinking, just because of the diversity and the things that went on. Sure, Central Florida and North Florida were like the rest of the South, but Barry, just because of where it was positioned, wasn't an old-fashioned southern school.
No, I didn't finish the story on Maria Alonso.
Oh, all right.
She graduated and she went to medical school in Costa Rica because there the government pays. And she later came back to Miami and she became head of pathology.
Where?
At Jackson.
Oh.
That was the one that wanted to
Quit.
leave because her father was working in a bottle factory and she thought she should help out the family. But I found that and I had some Haitian students too in class. I still remember one, Primrose, what was her name? Duvalier. I don't think it was Duvalier because that was Papa Doc and Baby Doc over there. She was so bright. I had 80, 85 in the lecture hall, and she stood out. Just brilliant. It was marvelous having all of this cross communication, with other cultures.
Was there disapproval or objection from people saying, I want this to be an all-girls white Catholic university and you shouldn't be going around changing? Or were the changes embraced?
Well, I didn't hear about it, if that's it.
Or were they embraced? Maybe, I mean, did you think that the Barry embraced the changes that were coming?
Well, I think we were ready for it. I know many of us were wishing that we would go co-ed because we would have this challenging of the minds there. They needed that. It was very interesting when we had the girls too, because I remember being on, on duty at the desk at night many times, and the dormitories had the names from the Litany of the Blessed Mother, like Rosa Mystica and Stella Matutina. I'd be on desk duty at Rosa Mystica, and a call would come in. May I please speak to Rosa Mystica? The girls, when they go out, if some fellows were pursuing them and they didn't want them around, they'd ask them what their name was, and they'd say Rosa Mystica.
And what did you say? How in the world could you diplomatically answer that? Did you tell them? What did you say to them?
I'd say, I'm sorry, sir, you have a dormitory. But it was so cozy. We had a fireplace there in Rosa Mystica. And in the cool weather, they would fire up, and it would be wonderful.
Now,
well,
as you know, those names no longer exist. They've changed their names.
I know they have. But anyway.
I guess you wish they'd kept the names.
No, not. It wouldn't be meaningful for many people this day and age. But anyway, the girls were supposed to be in their rooms, lights out at 10, Well, they would beg me, oh, may I please stay up longer? I have a test tomorrow and this and that. So I'd let them come out, and they'd bring their pillow, and they would lie on the pillow in front of the fireplace with their book propped up. It was so homey and so delightful. And
Well, that's a wonderful story.
it really was a home-like experience with them. And of course, when we went,
What about Barry then? I mean, then it's changed. That you've lost some of that as the school has moved on. You wouldn't see that happening now. And,
no,
you know,
that would be in a more exclusive school.
How is it that you joined the Adrians? What is your path to becoming a sister?
Oh, well, I always wanted to be able to go to Mass and Communion every day. That was one thing. But in high school, I had no attraction to it at all. Those black stockings and those black shoes, and I have no part of that. Ugh. But then I graduated from high school when I was 16, and I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to go on in science, and maybe even into medicine. So I wanted to go to Marquette University, but my mother said, you've been under such a male influence. See, because in my family I had 3 brothers, my father, we had 5 hired men, we had a dairy farm, and they lived on our premises. So I had just my mother and myself, and I had all of these men, you know. And she said, you haven't had much feminine influence in your life. So she said, I'd like to have you go to Siena one year, and then we'll go to Marquette. So I went to Siena one year, and then I decided to go back for the next year. Sister Benedicta Marie invited me to come back the next year. Well, I could not help but be attracted to the joyful spirit and the humility, but the brilliance. I had Sister Patrick Jerome, and she was, marvelous. And nothing was too menial for her to do, but she was just exceptional. And all the teachers I had were very brilliant. And the thing that really struck me was their joyful spirit. So I investigated, and I entered in February of my sophomore year. And I never had such an overwhelming sense of peace as I had that first night after I entered. You know, you could feel that God had his hand in this. And the one that wasn't at law wouldn't have anything to do with it in high school. So,
but so you knew that first night, this is so right. This is meant to be. Had you gone to a different girls' Catholic university with a different order, do you think you would have been as smitten?
I don't know. I'm a strong believer in divine providence, that there's not one single incident that is not under his loving care. I remember coming down here, and I wanted to see the deer, and this was just 2 falls ago, and I'd come down here, and it was just about like this, the sun and everything. And I scooted around, and I didn't see a deer anywhere. And I thought, oh my, please, Lord. So I take the drive out, and I'm going down that drive, and lo and behold, right there on that grassy mound were 2 little deer. One was a fawn, and the other one, the fawn still had, you could see the blotches, you know, from their hide, and the other one was there with them. So I just parked there, and I watched them, and they were feeding on that grassy knoll over there. And then all of a sudden, up shoots a head out of that underbrush over there, and it's Mama Deer. She must be babysitting these 2. And she looks me all over, and then down she goes. But the 2 little ones had gone in, and then she pops her head up and looks at me and approves of me, and then she goes down, and they come back out and feed again. Well, I just sat there enthralled with these little jokers. I said, thank you, God. I'm so happy I met the deer. But
Do you, fret's not the right word, but are you disappointed that obviously the sisterhood in general is not attracting women and the numbers are diminishing and that, for example, Bevilacqua could be the last sister at Barry University? I mean, conceivably. I mean, or do you accept that it's the sign of the times and that's
Hi,
okay?
dear.
Hey.
Well, I often think of Father Adrian von Kamm. He ran an institute in Philadelphia, but he said that these sine curves occurred in religious communities or religious life. And he said even in the Buddhists and so on, he said that they will have a surge in enrollment and then it will decline and then it will come back and like this. I don't know. Sometimes something spectacular happens and it may all come back again. But if it doesn't, maybe there's something else that's important, you know. There are many lay couples that go into missionary work, and they do marvels. And then look at that Mercy ship, the one that goes to Africa. I mean, those people, it's the work that to be accomplished that I think is important, you know.
Not necessarily who or what congregation is doing it or what
No.
group is doing it, but that the work gets done.
Yeah. But I always think there will be those that will be consecrated, you know, to Christ or to God, you know, to do a particular work. You know, it doesn't. I don't know. I can't fathom the mind of God, but I know it's pretty wonderful. So I don't worry about it.
Will there always be a Adrian Mother House?
That I don't know. But when I look at, when I first entered, there was just a few circles in one plot. And Sister Jane Payette and I had charge of the cemetery. We would come down here and mow the lawn and trim around those few graves. And now when I come back and I see all this, I thought, oh my goodness, it certainly is growing.
And aren't you glad you're not cutting the grass?
We really. Oh, I'm wearing
Yeah.
those glasses and I shouldn't.
Is there anything, I'm trying to think, are there other stories of Barry? You have so many stories to tell that I didn't think to maybe ask you about or I'm not familiar with, or something that you think of.
Oh. Well,
Again, I think it's probably what comes into your mind first, you know, is probably something that had a significant impact, but
well, Sister John Karen had extensive experience in culture, plant culture, orchids. And she had such interesting encounters. She went to Mexico with Sister Paul James. You perhaps heard this.
no, but I know Sister Paul, yes, and yes.
And they went, she went to get her doctorate in tropical botany at University of Miami after she finished the visit. I was surprised. I had interviewed her. She came up. We put out ads for faculty positions, and she came, and she accepted us, and she came and she set up some plant culture and so on, and was teaching the students. And the end of the first year, she came to me and she said that she was interested in entering. She said, I have never experienced such peace in my life. And she was very interested in joining the community. And I mean, she was a beautiful young woman, you know. She had every chance at any suitor that wanted her, you know.